Imagine losing everything you love in a single moment. Your dreams, your family, your reason to keep going, gone. Now picture a stranger, someone the world has forgotten, stepping out of the shadows to hand you a miracle. This is the story of a man drowning in grief, a child no one sees, and a moment that will leave you speechless. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up, because what happens next will break your heart and put it back together. Don't look away. This story will change how you see the world. The sprawling estate of Julian Hartwell stood like a monument to success at the edge of the city, its white marble facade glowing under the late afternoon sun. But inside, the air was heavy, suffocating. The grand halls, once alive with music and laughter, were now silent, save for the faint creak of the front porch swing. Julian sat there, his tailored navy suit wrinkled, his dark hair disheveled. At 35, he was a titan of the tech world, a self-made billionaire whose app had revolutionized how people connected across the globe. But today, none of that mattered. His wealth, his empire, his ambition, it was all ash in his mouth. On the porch, a small oak cradle rested, its polished wood catching the fading light. Inside, wrapped in a soft ivory blanket, lay the still form of his newborn daughter, Lily. Her tiny face, so perfect, so peaceful, broke him every time he looked at her. 3 days ago, she was supposed to be his future. 3 days ago, his wife, Emma, was supposed to hold her in her arms, smiling that radiant smile that had carried him through every storm. But now both were gone. Emma had been glowing, her hand squeezing Julian's as they laughed through her early contractions. "She's coming, Jules," she'd whispered, her eyes sparkling with hope. They'd fought so hard for this child. Years of fertility treatments, late-night prayers, and tears over losses they couldn't name. This baby was their miracle, the one who would make their family whole. But in the delivery room, everything unraveled. Emma's vitals plummeted. The doctors' faces grew grim. Julian was ushered out, his heart pounding as he paced the sterile hallway. When Dr. Patel emerged, his words were a blade. "Mr. Hartwell, I'm so sorry. Emma didn't make it. There were complications, a hemorrhage we couldn't control." Julian's knees buckled, the world tilting. "And the baby?" he'd gasped. The doctor's eyes dropped. "She was born, but her heart stopped shortly after. We tried everything." The hospital had become a blur of paperwork, condolences, and a grief so deep it felt like drowning. Julian insisted on bringing Lily home for one last goodbye. No cold morgue, no strangers. He wanted her here, in the home he and Emma had built, where they dreamed of her first steps, her first words. Now, Julian sat hunched, his hands trembling as he clutched a photo of Emma, her smile frozen in time. The cradle was a cruel reminder of what he'd lost. He hadn't slept in days, hadn't eaten. His empire was crumbling, investors calling, emails piling up, but he didn't care. Without Emma, without Lily, what was the point? He didn't notice the small figure at the edge of the driveway. A boy no older than 9 stood there, his bare feet caked with dirt, his oversized gray hoodie torn at the sleeves. His name was Milo, though no one had called him by it in months. He was invisible to the world, a kid who slept in alleys and scavenged for scraps. He'd wandered past the estate, drawn by the strange sight of the cradle on the porch. At first, he kept his distance, his dark eyes scanning the scene. The man looked broken, the cradle looked wrong. Milo crept closer, his heart thudding. He stopped a few feet from the porch, peering at the tiny form inside. The baby was so still, too still. But then, their star. A twitch, so faint he thought he'd imagined it. He rubbed his eyes, squinting. The blanket shifted again, the tiniest rise and fall. Milo's breath caught. He looked at the man who hadn't moved, lost in his own world. "Mister," Milo called, his voice small but clear. Julian didn't stir. Milo stepped closer, his bare feet silent on the wood. "Mister, your baby, she's alive." Julian's head snapped up, his bloodshot eyes locking onto the boy. "What did you say?" His voice was raw, disbelieving. Milo pointed at the cradle, his finger trembling. She moved. I saw her chest. I swear she's breathing. Julian's heart lurched. Impossible. The doctors had checked. The death certificate was signed. But something in the boy's wide, earnest eyes, a flicker of certainty, made Julian's stomach twist. He stumbled to the cradle, his breath hitching. He leaned over, searching Lily's tiny face. And then he saw it, the faintest flutter of her chest, a whisper of movement. His hand shot to her cheek, expecting cold, lifeless skin. Instead it was warm. Alive. Oh my God, he gasped, his legs nearly giving out. He spun to Milo, who stood frozen, watching. How did you? Words failed him. His hands shook as he fumbled for his phone, dialing 911 with clumsy fingers. My daughter, she's alive. Send an ambulance now. His voice cracked, desperation and hope colliding. As the ambulance screamed toward the estate, Julian's mind raced. How could this happen? The doctors had been certain. Had they missed something? Had he almost buried his daughter alive? The thought was a knife to his chest. He looked at Milo, this scrappy, dirt-streaked boy who just turned his world upside down. Don't go anywhere, Julian said, his voice trembling. Please. Milo nodded, his eyes wide with something like fear or hope. The paramedics burst onto the porch, their equipment clattering. She's breathing, Julian shouted, pointing to Lily. She's alive. The lead paramedic, a woman with sharp eyes, checked Lily's pulse, her face unreadable. Weak but there, she confirmed. We need to move now. They lifted the tiny form, oxygen mask in place, and rushed her to the ambulance. Julian climbed in, his hand gripping Lily's tiny fingers. At the hospital, the neonatal intensive care unit was a storm of activity. Machines beeped, nurses moved with precision, and Dr. Elena Ruiz, the head neonatologist, took charge. Julian stood outside the glass, watching as they worked on his daughter. His mind was a war zone, hope battling fear, guilt clawing at him for almost giving up. Hours dragged on. Finally, Dr. Ruiz approached, her face calm but serious. Mr. Hartwell, your daughter was in a state of extreme bradycardia. Her heart rate was so low it was nearly undetectable. She's stabilized now, but it's a miracle she's alive. If you hadn't noticed when you did. She trailed off, shaking her head. Julian's knees buckled. He sank into a chair, tears streaming down his face. She's going to make it, he whispered. Dr. Ruiz nodded. She's a fighter, like her father. But Julian's thoughts weren't on himself. They were on the boy Milo. The kid no one saw, who'd seen what the doctors missed. He had to find him. Julian sped back to the estate, his heart pounding. The porch was empty. The paramedics were gone, the cradle still there, a haunting reminder. But Milo, he was nowhere. Panic surged. Had the boy run off? Had Julian lost the one person who'd given him back his daughter? He scanned the driveway, the street, calling out, Milo! Milo, where are you? Then he saw him, a small figure curled up under the porch swing, hidden in the shadows. Milo looked up, his face pale, his eyes wary. I didn't know if you'd want me here, he mumbled. Julian knelt, his voice soft but firm. Milo, you saved my daughter. Why would you think I wouldn't want you here? Milo shrugged, looking down. People don't usually want me around. Julian's heart broke. This boy, who'd given him everything, had nothing. No family, no home, just the streets and the weight of being invisible. What's your story, Milo? Julian asked gently. The boy hesitated, then spoke in a whisper. My mom, she died a couple years ago. I don't got nobody else. I just get by. His voice was steady, but his eyes were wet. Julian's throat tightened. He saw Emma in his mind, her kindness, her belief that everyone deserved a chance. You're not alone anymore, he said. You saved Lily. You saved me. I'm not letting you go back to the streets. Milo's eyes widened, a flicker of hope breaking through his guarded expression. "You mean that?" Julian nodded. "Come with me. Let's get you cleaned up, get you some food. We'll figure this out together." Days later, Julian sat by Lily's incubator, her tiny chest rising and falling with steady breaths. She was gaining strength, her cheeks pinker each day. But another thought gnawed at him. The hospital had launched an investigation into how Lily's condition was missed. Dr. Patel, the doctor who delivered the news of her death, had vanished from the hospital staff. Whispers among the nurses suggested he'd been involved in something shady, falsified records, maybe even negligence to cover up a mistake during Emma's delivery. Julian's blood ran cold. Had Emma's death been preventable? Had Lily's near-death been a cover-up? He hired a private investigator, determined to uncover the truth. But for now, his focus was on the living, on Lily and on Milo. Julian brought Milo to his mansion, a place that felt too big for just him and Lily. The boy's eyes widened at the sight of the sprawling rooms, the gleaming kitchen, the soft bed Julian set up for him. Over dinner, pizza, because Milo shyly admitted it was his favorite. Julian learned more. Milo had been on his own since his mother's overdose, bouncing between shelters and streets. He'd learned to watch, to notice things others missed, because survival demanded it. "You saw Lily when no one else did," Julian said, his voice thick. "How?" Milo shrugged, picking at his pizza. "I used to watch my baby cousin before my mom got sick. I know what babies look like when they're sleeping, not gone." Julian's chest ached. This kid, who'd lost everything, had given him everything. "Your family now, Milo," he said. "If you'll have us." Milo's eyes shone, and for the first time he smiled, a small, hesitant thing that lit up the room. Weeks later, as Lily grew stronger and Milo settled into his new life, Julian received a call from his investigator. "Mr. Hartwell, you need to see this." In a stark office, the investigator slid a file across the desk. Dr. Patel wasn't just negligent. He was paid off. Someone wanted Emma's delivery to fail. Julian's world tilted again. "Who?" he demanded, his voice shaking with rage. The investigator hesitated. "We're still digging, but it points to someone in your company. A rival, maybe, who wanted to destabilize you. Your wife's death, your daughter's. They were collateral damage." Julian's hands clenched into fists. His company, his empire had enemies, he knew that. But to target Emma, to nearly kill Lily. He thought of the boardroom battles, the competitors he'd outmaneuvered. Someone had taken their revenge too far. "I'm going to find them," Julian vowed, his voice low and dangerous. "Whoever did this, they'll pay." But even as he spoke, doubt crept in. Could he protect Lily and Milo while chasing this truth? Could he rebuild his family without losing himself to vengeance? Months passed. Lily thrived, her giggles filling the mansion. Milo, now officially adopted, started school, his shy smile growing bolder each day. Julian poured his wealth into a foundation for homeless children, naming it after Emma. He worked with the investigator, closing in on the truth about Emma's death, but he made a choice. His family came first. One evening, as he tucked Milo into bed, the boy looked up. "You didn't have to take me in, you know." Julian smiled, ruffling his hair. "Yes, I did. You gave me back my daughter. You gave me back my life." And that, my friends, is the story of a miracle born from the unlikeliest of places. A billionaire who had everything, a boy who had nothing, and a baby who defied death. What did you think of Julian, Milo, and Lily's journey? Drop a comment below and let us know. Where are you watching from, and what moment hit you the hardest? If this story moved you, smash that like button and subscribe for more tales of hope, heartbreak, and the moments that change everything. Stay kind, stay inspired, and we'll see you in the next one.